welcome once again to Postcard. And we're still here in Portugal. Leigh's still there in Slovakia. He's suffering with snow, but we're suffering with the virus. The virus has caught up with us here in Portugal.
Wow.
Yeah, we've been good boys until now, but the problem is, of course, here, the Portuguese variety of it, which seems to be even worse than the Kent variety, and it's flooded the country. Fortunately, not much down in the south where we are, but the figures are the worst in the world at the moment, both on
Really?
Yeah, and with people,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and numbers of people catching it. It is a menace. So they've locked us down and done something very strange, I might say, in that we cannot now travel from Portugal to Spain. And the reason being, cunningly, though they've not explicitly said this, is that there's an easy way to get back to Britain and avoid 10 days in a hotel room. And that is come from Spain instead of Portugal. So they've had to shut, they won't admit it, but this is the truth. They've had to shut the borders because everybody had have curtailed, circumvented, diverted through Spain to get back to England. What a mess, Leigh.
It is. That story has been doing the rounds in the British press for the past few days. And in fact, it's, there are many ways. If you remember last year, we managed to find a way into Britain where we didn't have to do any kind of lockdown. We didn't have to do any self-isolation. We just found a way of getting across the channel into Great Britain, and it wasn't a problem. The same coming back. Basically, it meant we couldn't stop in France. If we didn't stop in France, we could get across to Britain. And the flying from Spain, it's a bit of a misnomer if you think, because holidaymakers from there are being told that they're going to have to lock down. It might be a little window for a couple of days. And it's one of those things that really, let me have a little rant, right?
Go for it. That'll make a change.
Yeah, this is my little rant to begin the programme with. Right, I have been reading in the British press, and it's nothing to do with the British press, they're just reporting it, but I'm also on television, on the radio, all these whinging British people, all the middle-class oiks of the world in Britain, moaning about the fact that they can't go on holiday. What? You can't go on. Well, I've paid twice for this holiday. I've been paying for this for 2 years, and now I've been told I can't go. I'm very upset. Of course you're very upset. Of course you're very upset. Everybody could have a holiday. Not everybody can have a holiday, but if you can, yeah, right, you can have a holiday. But there's something called COVID going on. The whole world's shut down, and you're moaning about your 2-week holiday. What about me and him? What about me and him? We're British. We can't get back to our own country.
Well, there you go. And I must say at this stage, the lovely Andrea has to put up with this day in and day out. Can you imagine?
That's just when I wake up. Rage against the light.
Well, it is. I mean, it's a bit, as we say, our favourite word, daft. And the other thing that is very daft is what's happening between governments, and the left-wing governments are particularly guilty of this. And don't forget, in Portugal, we have a left-wing regime, and it's a bit of a peculiar regime. It's left-wing in some things and quite right-wing in another. But one thing that is very naughty, that Leigh will agree with me 100% on this, is that in the last 3 weeks, our dear Presidente here, Republic, of course, in Portugal, has not had any press conferences. In fact, he's disallowed them. Naughty. What's
well, it is.
Well,
yeah.
One thing he's hiding is last weekend we had, and nothing was said about the Portuguese figures going up, because last weekend, the 24th of January, was the election day, and he wanted to keep it quiet, of course, the increase in the death, because it started before then. he knew what was happening. He wanted to be stum until he was re-elected. And so it's happened. He has been re-elected. And now the truth is coming out. There's still no press conferences. Leigh, that is akin to Russia and China at its worst.
Well, it is in a way, yeah. And the regime. See, in a lot of Europe, that's happening. Even in our own beloved country where we're trapped and can't get back to Britain. No holiday to go back to live. We can't do it, and there are no press conferences over here. Not great press conferences. There's something called, I'm not naming them because they keep getting everything wrong, but there is a radio station in Slovakia. That's close. You could probably work it out from that. Radio Slovakia, yeah, who get everything wrong, and they put out regular updates on what's going on. Now, that is really, in many parts, the European way. It's part of the fact that the Russian influence, all the Eastern European influences, the Warsaw Pact. Europe still suffers that. The rebellion in Spain. We still have the strange regimes in Europe. Viva la difference. I don't know how to say it in Spanish. I would have said that in Spanish, but it makes a difference to the way things are presented. People in Slovakia, in particular, rarely read newspapers. There's a newspaper called the Slovak Spectator. What a load of rubbish! And it tries its best, but it's very middle of the road. Doesn't really cover any great things in depth. And everybody's going to hate me over here who watches it. But the press in Britain and the government are far more open than most places in Europe. And it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. But it's a cultural thing.
Well, yes, it is partly a cultural thing. When we started our chat, you mentioned, and especially the Daily Express has been running this one for a few days.
Daily Express, a load of rubbish and all.
Give over the Express just because it's a right wing. Because
it's because it's never grown up. It stayed in the 1970s. I used to work there. I remember the Daily Express. I used to love working there. Then I went to the Daily Star. The Daily Express is still covering the death of Diana.
Well, I mean, people like it. I mean, many's the time I used to work the building.
See how many it sells.
Yes, in Manchester, and look at the dear old iconic building there. Which eventually spread down to Fleet Street, of course. But they did cover the fact that, there's a dodgy way of get back in Britain. That's been open to the British press, but it was kept stum again in Portugal. They've not been telling the Portuguese people, as I say, a bit naughty. Let's go on to something else that's a bit naughty. We were discussing during the week between ourselves what's happening in America regarding the number of people dying of COVID there. And there are actually 3 times more Black, African and Mexican people dying of COVID than the white population. So what's behind this, Leigh?
I'm not really sure what's behind it. I think it's American politics, American attitudes to different things. I think it's the privation of black areas. I think it's the ghettos in America. I think it's the isolation of foreign people in America. I think it's endemic of a system in America which, as we speak, and even you must admit this, is falling apart. The whole of democracy in America is being brought to its knees by all the infighting, all the arguing, all the misinformation, and there are always victims in a revolution. And the people who are caught in this American revolution of despair and democracy are people who are in the weakest position. And there are a lot of poor people dying as well.
Yeah, he's right. This is a Leigh conversion, by the way, because until the election in America, he wouldn't have talked this way. But no, that's not strictly true. I'm going to move on and say that it happens also that there has been a survey in Britain, only came out yesterday, for a similar problem in America, but this one mainly about the BAME part of society. That, as we know, is mainly from South Asia. And they're not dying at 3 to 1 the rate, they're dying at 4 to 1. Now, that is astonishing in Britain. Now, it's a proper survey, as I say, conducted by one of the northern universities in Britain. And can I say at this stage, initially, CNN and The Guardian highlighted this, both left-wing, especially CNN. And I think, well, I've got to check my facts out if CNN are doing this. They've got a long track record of being OTT about these things. And sure enough, they were, because there are certain conditions that affect certain nations and certain part of nations. It's something to do with black and white. But the facts are, first of all, number one, there are more anti-vaxxers in the black and BAME societies. Surprisingly, they don't like the vaccine. So that's the first thing to add in to the fact that if it's 4 to 1, that's got to have an influence. The other thing, of course, they tend to go to the poorer areas in a country, in a city, where, let's be honest, the GP services are not as they are in the leafy glades of Surrey. You're not attended to, and with their, I suppose, background of not being used to being treated, they have also said when they go to a GP, if you're black, coloured, you are not treated the same. Now, that is a terrible statement, but a number of them, people in the survey said this. They're not exactly excluded, but they tend not to be treated the same. Tell me, Leigh.
Treated the same in what way? I just don't get the correlation there.
No, well, people that we dread in British society, of course, is the lady secretary in our GP surgeries.
Oh, well, yeah, but that's not a racist thing. That's
when they come to dealing with BAME, they're on steroids, Leigh. They are not treated well.
Well, yeah, I can understand that. I don't think ethnic minorities are treated well in any way, shape, or form in Britain. I think more power to the elbow of the ethnic minorities who manage to build up strong businesses and make themselves very comfortably off, while so many Brits live on benefits by having lots and lots of children. You know, that's just the way it is. I actually can prove that by facts. The fact that people of Asian descent, say, suffer more because of COVID is because, and it's again a proven fact, there is a genetic problem within their makeup which makes them more susceptible to it, and that's been proven medically. I personally could tell you a very strong story about the treatment of a doctor's surgery where all it's English, but we actually investigated it. We didn't actually cook anything on it, publish anything on it. We investigated it where patients were accused of all sorts of insults towards the doctors and their staff. Were accused of actually staking out the doctor's surgery, and it wasn't true because one of the people who was accused of staking out the doctor's surgery was actually living in Spain at the time. So yes, doctors, secretaries, and are well known for being bad-tempered, awkward, overprotective, pompous, and ridiculous. And you know, you can take me to task anybody on that. It just is a simple fact of the British way of life, and it goes all across the country. The fact that ethnic people of different ethnicity, are treated more badly than we are, I don't accept. I just don't accept. I think we've had isolated occurrences. If I was involved in a survey, I would say I've been treated very badly by doctors and doctors' staff. I would also say that my life was saved by the very doctor that I would be attacking over this. So I think that is a bit of a fallacious argument, not on your behalf, but on the behalf of the university. I know which university you're talking about. And yeah, they do a lot of good work as well. But there is the simple fact across the world, in Spain, in Europe, in many parts of Europe, and that is racism, where people of a different colour are treated far more badly by people whose country they've entered. Terrible.
Well, let's finish this particular section on a bit of science. It's been thought and now has been proven that vitamin D has potentially a mega effect on the virus. And for years, people have been coming from, especially Pakistan and India, with extremely low vitamin D levels before the virus was even thought about. And they've had masses of dosage, but if they're coming to a Northern European climate, obviously there's adjustment. But it does seem within the bodies of the Asian community, there is a weakness regarding vitamin D. So that can easily be put right and cheaply been put right. Right, let's move on. Now, going from the sublime to the sublimer, there is a lady, a member of the Labour Party in Britain. I'll name her and shame her, Lisa Nandy. We have the British Armed Forces, which we're proud of, and most of the world is, because they've done a lot of good worldwide and they've trained a lot of troops for other nations as well. But she wants to change the name. Now, if woke needs to be put to sleep, forgive the pun, it's because of people like this. She wants to call the armed forces, I shall read it, I don't still believe it, Gender Balanced Human Security Corps. Now, you're not going to be called Army, Navy and Air Force, you're going to be that. And I'm not repeating it, I would shamefully not repeat that. I mean, which planet do these people come from, Leigh? And how do they get into positions of potential power as a shadow foreign minister?
It depends really where she's got that from. Maybe she's presenting an argument for a laugh. Maybe she's just wasting parliamentary time. Maybe she believes it. Maybe the whole thing she's been put up, maybe people in her constituency have put it forward to her. The one single fact is it's not going to happen. The simple fact is this. One of the joys of British politics, and used to be in American politics, and used to be in new politics, the eccentric and the silly could actually be discussed. And one of the mainstays of the humour in the British media has always been the ludicrousness of what politicians say. And there you have it. There you have it. Yeah, there's one more to go down in the book with bent bananas, straightened bananas.
I understand on the QT that her close friend is Diane Abbott, and there I do rest my case.
We'll ask Jeremy Corbyn about it, see what he thinks.
No, he's been and gone. He's no longer. He is terminated.
Yeah. Not worshipping. No, that's right. I can't go there. Sorry.
No, no, stop. We don't want turning off again. We move on. I have a clip to play to you, and it's your favourite Italian police force, and against, let's say, versus Antifa. Now, Antifa from America, extreme right wing, been implicated in lots of things, including Capitol Hill, etc. And this is not how the British police would behave, but maybe they should. Let me play this, Leigh.
Yeah, it's always been the way. Like you say, it's not the sort of thing that would happen in Britain in this case, in this sort of case. And good on Britain for it being controlled. Having said that, there are many incidences of similar things happening in Britain, and certainly where the newspaper seller, an old chap who sold newspapers, was pushed to the ground, and it became, so the horses are ridden at people. Forget about Antifa. Let's talk about riots. Are people within a protest allowed to riot? I say no. I don't think that rioting is anything other than complete and utter insurrection. Whether these people were actually rioting or not is still open to discourse. It looks bad, but surely the police have a right to react in a way that allows them to control a situation which is getting out of hand and is damaging towards the rest of society. And Italians have always been a bit rough in these sort of circumstances, just the Spanish police. And it's just the way of the world. It's the reaction rather than the cause which is in question here. Antifa, well, you know my feelings about them and the way they are. Bad. It's bad all the way around. But who created the situation that caused it? Did the riot, the protesters, or did the police? That needs to be investigated.
Yeah, right. I've got something to show you now. I don't know whether this will come out because we use one of these wretched false background. Can you see that, Leigh?
I can see Alpro.
Oh, there you go. Well, now, yeah, I shall pull that down.
Okay.
But I will read it at the same time because this is typical of various products, and we should perhaps look at the thing behind it, which is the green movement and how they've hijacked things, but also major manufacturers, in this case Alpro, have jumped on the bandwagon. Now you buy one of these and you can buy an Alpro almond, no sugars, all over Europe. It's a British product, an American product, but in essence, it sells almond, which is good for you, better for you than milk, they say. But you look at the package and you look what it contains. Big nuts on there, big letters, almond. 2%, Leigh, of almond, 98% water. Oh, right. How do they get away with it when you can't get away with some of the things that we want to get away with, but we're stumped? But it goes worse. This pack is produced from the green movement. And on the back, it says 96% plant-based packaging, including the plastic shutter, twister, knob at the top. Now, the whole half the wretched package is saying how wonderful we are for being king recyclers and looking after the ozone layer, or whatever the fashion might be at the present time, buy our product, resulting in, I'm reading here, a CO2 reduction of 27% in big letters. Is that the way to sell a product? Well, it obviously is to the Guardian reader, because they're buying this in bucket loads.
How do you know they buy it in bucket loads?
I can give you some figures, actually, that most supermarkets, believe it or not, are dedicating 17% of their shelf space to the people of alternative desires. Be mainly vegans, actually, are making up the majority of that. That's all right. People want to eat plants. But when it comes to a real burger, and I can see his eyes watering now, then there's no comparison between a real burger and a plant burger, whatever they tell you. But when they go that state, yes, taste for one.
Consistency.
Yes. Well, when you go as far as to dedicate practically the whole of this packaging to packaging and saying, buy our product because it's recyclable, it's gone too far, Leigh. Does the ordinary person honestly believe we will save the planet by buying stuff this way?
It's not a matter of saving the planet by an Alpro packaging bottle of 2% almond milk. It's a way of, it's like one cigarette will not kill you, a million will. It's the build-up of effects. Like for instance, and you know, it's something that I do know quite a lot about. I represented for many years a hotel which claimed to be the world's greenest hotel, and it put far less poisonous material into the atmosphere than many other hotels. I'm not saying it was the best at it, but it was something like 70% less. Now, that in its own way couldn't save the world. But if the attitude is taken across all sorts of industries, not the petrol industry, not the diesel industry, let them clean their acts up in a different way and allow people to keep the good cars they've got and not have to plug it into a wall every 3 miles. But the improvement in the world's atmosphere over this time of COVID is palpable, and that shows you how we can save the world. And these packages, if they replace plastic, then ultimately how we'll do it. I know one way of getting rid of plastic, and that was another company I represented who turned it into road surfaces. Never took off, not sure why, might have been something wrong with it. But there are plenty of ways of using these products. And to save the world, let's change our attitude. One final point on this very quickly. I counted up, and put me against the wall and shoot me. I counted up a long time ago, maybe a year and a half ago, how many plastic products we had in our apartment. It was incredible. There were over 300 bits of plastic in our apartment that contained everything from hair products to food products, bins, plastic bags, everything. It was unbelievable. Now, my son, who operates quite a big organization, came up with a plan to use and to distribute paper bags. Paper bags to put your food in. Nobody wanted them. Nobody wanted them. Far more charming to walk around with your food like that. Big brown paper bag. Looks better, stylish, classy. Looks like you live in New York. A big, stupid pair of Tesco bags like you're walking around like an egg. Well, why do you think that's better than a brown paper bag that could save the world?
Well, yes, I mean, they've been doing it in America for years, of course. Big paper bags, but you couldn't do it in Britain because they get wet and they would finish up on the floor. That's probably the reason why. Don't
Put it
forget,
on your umbrella.
well, yeah, you try owning an umbrella, mate, with about 4 bags and go into the bus station and...
Oh, you're sending plastic bags.
The green movement has gone far too powerful. They are more powerful than anything else. The newspapers are following the green movement.
Is Boris a green movement person?
Well, he says he is, but that's for political reasons only, because he's got to host this conference, hasn't he?
Yes, exactly.
A green conference in Glasgow. I mean, you needn't write the script for that one. I've not finished with Alpro, by the way. I should quickly get in, because I've just noticed with this and in big letters again, and the almonds are sourced in the Mediterranean, where most production is rain fed, in gigantic letters. What a load of junk. A lot of almonds. Why? Because it's junk. Most of the almonds actually come from the California valleys. And they water feed them because they don't get the rain. It's practically the desert, but it's a lot better for the almonds because they can even out the watering. Now, we're surrounded by almond trees here, and they're gorgeous in January and February with their white and pink and red blossoms. They're beautiful. But you have to be careful if you get a drought. The Americans have sussed it, and they get these miniature watering machines, and it works out. So that's a disadvantage. It's more ecological, actually, in America than in Europe. And yet they're making a big thing about this. And finally, Leigh, I've got to say, in the biggest writing on top of this product, which costs a lot of money, it says chilled to perfection. What does that mean? What a load of... I won't say it. Now, if I want anything chilled, Leigh, I put it in the fridge. It's as simple as that.
I stick it out the window here.
Well, yeah, you don't need it, right? But this is the way we've gone. It's crazy. Now, finally, on this subject, we've got to draw close to this subject very quickly. We must move on. But before we go, the green movement as a whole has not taken into account history. Because if you look to history, thousands and thousands, even million years ago, you see the planet warming and the planet cooling. Far bigger effect than carbon dioxide can ever have. And in these times of COVID and indiscipline in the financial world and what we have got to face over the next maybe 10, 25, 50 years to recover from all this, I'm afraid it puts the green movement where they should be. It's important we look, and I agree with you with plastics, there are better ways of doing these things, but that's not the green movement. The green movement is mega rich and changing the world, and at the moment, not for the better. We are not all going to die, as the wonderful Swedish girl mentioned, in the next year, and causing all our children to have traumas and nightmares. It's going to be hundreds and hundreds of years at least before things will go back to another ice age. It's the normal thing. It's been overstated, Leigh. Go on, I'll let you have the last word.
Well, it's debatable if it's been overstated. You see, within the freedom of our democracy, which is something that I defend to the hills, everybody is allowed to have an opinion. Everybody is allowed to have the platform to state what they wish to state. And certainly the green movement as a movement, not as individuals and not as individual groups within that movement, the concept of the green movement is a good thing. The saving of the planet, or forget about the saving of the planet, that's headline words. Think about the improving of the planet, the improving of life in the planet. And the green movement, in its own way, which began many, many, many decades ago, has done what it can. Has done a lot of good in that way. They've certainly ruined beef burgers, as you say, because a vegan and green beef burger is terrible. But they have improved many things, like the taking down of rainforests, like the improvement. They created a situation where a billionaire created, because he'd learned about what they were saying, created the world's greenest hotel, apparently, and created all sorts of things. He started to drive different types of cars. He began that. So big, no, I was going to say important people. I don't think he's important as such, any more important than you or I or any of our listeners, but people with clout, with influence, have taken what has been presented to them by people who had a green conscience and reacted to it. Now, if we all did that, it would improve it. Going back to the plastic bags, we all drive cars now. The majority, I don't know many people who don't actually have a vehicle. And to carry your food like an ape with two big swinging plastic bags knocking around your ankles, and to walk 10 yards, 20 yards across a car park and stick them in the boot of your car, then drive home with them. Yeah, you could do it. You could drive your car closer to the supermarket and put your plastic, your paper bags in the back before they actually fall apart because of the rain. Only on a rainy day, though. So it's like, yeah, let's do it. Let's not knock the Green Party for existing, or people with a green conscience. There are elements within those organisations, like there are within any kind of organisation, who are radical, who are anarchistic, and they're the ones that you have to keep an eye on, not the people who just want to do a bit of good.
Well, that's true. I mean, there's good in everything, and even in Alpro. And we're not getting at you, Alpro. You're not the only ones that are guilty of this daft. But I drink your product, and it's great. So yeah, let's have a balance.
Let's have a balance.
Yeah, well,
let's have Marston's bitter and John Willie Lee's bitter. That's balanced.
Oh my goodness me. Now that leads us swiftly on to the fact that there is a date that has been given to me of the 17th. Well, that's very specific, of July. And we've touched on this before, worth having a go again. 21. That's when the shutdowns will actually come to a grinding end. Now, it's a long time in the future. And are we going to just be open for the 2 months of summer again? It looks like it, Leigh, because that's come from several sources mid-July this year.
Yeah. It's been muted for, there's a lot, like there is thought that next month part of the lockdown in Britain will start to lift. It's to do with the way that vaccines go on. Let's be proud of Britain. I know neither of us live there, but let's be proud of Britain. We have knocked everybody else into a cocked hat as far as vaccinations are concerned. You know, many places in Europe have done less than 1 million. I don't think Italy's done very well with it. We are now breaking records on how we can vaccinate and try to eradicate or at least stymie this disease. And if we carry on that way, surely we can get back to a normal way of life. Now, every time you see normal way of life, it has quotes around normal, because that indicates we're never going to get back to a normal way of life. That's what's scary. What is a normal way of life going to be in the future?
Indeed, but let me give you a new, a red top leader, if you wish. The EU are the pits because they're trying to steal our vaccine. Naughty them. They've got no excuse, Leigh. We've mentioned it ourselves on several occasions. We signed up for the Oxford AZ vaccine, AstraZeneca vaccine, many weeks before, and they're still not signed up yet. And they're blaming us, and they're going to stop the factory in Belgium producing the stuff. Well, our factories come online very, very shortly, so we don't need it from Belgium. But that's highlighted again. COVID's highlighted the weakness in people. Is that what the Europeans really think of us?
It's the politics of it again. It's the politics of it. Certainly, you know, Britain signed up, I think it was 3 months earlier for the vaccine than anybody else, than the European Union did. And the European Union are playing politics, not only with Britain, but with the company saying that we have an agreement with you that you're not sticking to. The company's saying that our agreement allows us to do certain things. They're saying your agreement only allows you to do certain things if you fail. Well, they haven't failed. I think it's terrible. I think it's disgusting. But it's not the whole of Europe. Like in Slovakia or here, where I am, the land of the snow. We have had vaccinations now of well over 20% of the country. We're beating even Britain, man. And that's in Europe, central Europe, the heart of Europe. Why can we do it? The amount to spend on the vaccine itself is far smaller because the population is far smaller. There's all these ways of doing it. But there is a simple fact that Slovakia said, yeah, let's get vaccinated, everybody. If you go and stand outside your doctor's surgery, we'll come and vaccinate you down the line. And the Slovaks said, yeah, we'll go and stand in the snow. We'll go and stand in the wind. We'll get vaccinated. We'll get back to work. And all that the rest of Europe is doing is whinging and moaning and messing about, just like the idiots in Britain who said, well, I've been paying for holiday for 2 years and I've not been able to take it. Well, grow up.
Well, he's still having a go, isn't he, at that one? But I've got another one that maybe you can have a go at, and it's very intriguing because we go back a long way with Gibraltar, and we know, let's just say, top people in Gibraltar. Now, I'm going to get myself into trouble.
Good.
Again,
I've got myself into trouble all morning.
Yes. Well, yes, for other reasons. Now, Gibraltar was top of the tree for many, many months after the virus kicked off. And I, for one, could not understand why. They were completely virus-free, not even catching it, never mind dying of it. And I thought that was impossible. The reason being that between 10 and 12,000 people go across that border from La Linea, which is not the best town in Spain. You can think of it being like a very poor area in New York. Why hasn't the virus been brought over when Spain was so bad with it? Suddenly, we get more figures coming out. The first set of figures last month, 19 people over 12 months. Now, don't forget the population in Gibraltar is just over 30,000. Plus the people coming in every day. And you've got to put that in perspective, of course. And over the whole period, only 19 people have died in practically 12 months. The RAF actually flew the vaccine direct to Gibraltar. And lo and behold, in the time they gave the vaccine, which is just over a week, 10 days, we reached 30 odd cases in just over a week. Now, that's going to take a mathematician some time to work out. I'm sure they'll find a political excuse for it. But those two extremes, having no viruses when you're open to viruses for such a long time, and suddenly given vaccines, of course, the anti-vaxxers are making a good day of this.
Gibraltar. It's a strange place, isn't it? I've never actually wanted to particularly visit it, although I know people that do and enjoy it. It's very expensive. It's sort of particularly as far as cost is concerned. But the tales about the way COVID has affected them are quite worrying. Take the Falkland Islands, for instance. They were doing incredibly well as far as the virus was concerned. I don't think there were any cases. There might have been 2 cases. And but then they started to do the altruistic thing of rescuing people on cruise ships. And the island was overrun. You know, and that's gone quiet. Nobody talks about the Falkland Islands anymore. I think one of the few, the Legion Banks Preservation Society, was one of the few places to actually publish on it. What's happening in Gibraltar needs to be investigated again. We need some good reporters to go over there and look into it and find out what's going on. Why were there no cases? Why did you tell us there was no cases? Now all of a sudden you've got loads. Now 30 cases, even in a population of 30,000, isn't massive. We have to be fair in that way.
Well, indeed, as we keep saying, watch this space. We shall report back. I won't be able to step foot in Gibraltar from here on in. And I've got lots of mates there and we love Gibraltar dearly. But we've got, as you say, we've got to ask the question. Because if you stop asking questions, then freedom of speech does disappear. Right. Light bulbs, Leigh. Light bulbs.
Oh, light bulbs now.
Yes. And we thought our friends at Alpro were bad. I can say light bulbs to you. And what a con, Leigh. We were assured by the EU especially, we've got to get rid of these incandescent old-fashioned light bulbs because they last 5 minutes. Okay, they're cheap, but they're burning too much of electricity, blankety blank. And lo and behold, we've got these LEDs that now actually do come in 3 colors: cold, which I call freezing, middle range, and then warm, which is not exactly warm. They cost an absolute fortune. And I'm not surprised because I see the blooming light bulb and I've seen an expert take it apart. It's like a little computer inside. No wonder they cost a fortune. And they're going to last us, we were assured, 10 years plus. Rubbish. It's 10 minutes, just like the incandescent ones. What's going on? It's a con. And I'll tell you why we know it's a con. Dubai have actually, the Sultan of Dubai, indeed, has contacted Philips in Holland. And they want a whole batch of proper LED light bulbs. And you know, they're quite different because a lot of the LED light bulbs now that look like the old conventional ones, you can see a couple of filaments in there. There should be 8 filaments in there, Leigh, not 2, to make them last 10 to 15 years. Yeah, they'll cost a little bit more, but very little in the manufacturing process. It's because they don't want to go out of business, as you can easily do by having a 10-year light bulb. And that we've been conned, Leigh. It's all for the Greens. No, it's not. It's all for the people to make more money out of us. We've been conned.
Why don't we have diesel light bulbs? That'd be good. I have a personal experience only this week of these light bulbs. They look very pretty. I'm looking up at them now in the studio. They fit into the ceiling. They fit flush to the ceiling. I'm now looking 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 out of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 are out, have gone. Now, we went out and bought some for the kitchen because 2 had gone in the kitchen as well, out of 8 or whatever is there. And do you know how much it cost us for 2 light bulbs?
Well,
almost €10.
My goodness.
€10. That's just madness. So anyway, I put them in with great difficulty because I'm a very practical man until it actually comes to doing something. And I managed to get them in. And yes, you're quite right. We don't have, they're all different colours now. They're all different colours. And when you bought those old little round light bulbs that you stuck in and did a little twist on, yeah, they might have lasted 5 minutes, but they cost you 10p or 15p or 30p, depending on what the quality was you bought. There is a difference between 30 pence and €5. For our Euro friends, 30 pence is what? 30 things, whatever that is.
But we'd better move on. We're not throwing very much light onto this subject. And we will go to my favourite person, the lovely Nicola. She's done it again. I love Nicola because every week she makes a complete and utter boob, and she's done it again. And first of all, she didn't want Boris up there purely on political grounds. And she said, why should he travel up here? Have we not got COVID restrictions everywhere? Well, he went up on a politically motivated soiree, if you wish, but she's out to get Boris. But I tell you what, I've noticed, Leigh. Yes, I'll tell you what I've noticed. There is a distinct lowering of our natural friendship with Scotland. It's being wound up by press, by especially the television channels. I'm talking about the Scottish press, I've got to say that. It is being wound up there. Not all of it. Some of it is very United Kingdom, but there is a large part of the Scottish press that are winding it up, and they're coming out with some wonderful stories. I've got a wonderful story, and that's how much do our MPs cost? Well, our MPs cost about 80,000 a year plus expenses. You can double that. Except if you're SNP invading our parliament at Westminster, I use the word carefully, and are sat there causing havoc and stopping a lot of business proceeding purely to push Scotland's independence forward in a lot of cases. And out of the top 10 MPs that have got the highest quotas, I mean, number one is the chair of the House of Commons, because he's got a lot more to do and a lot more expenses to meet. But 2 out of the top 10 are Scottish MPs. And the others push them very closely because they have to travel from Scotland, they say, and stay in the best hotels, and are traveling by first class often, railway or plane, more railway than plane. And they're pushing it, Leigh. If they want independence, there is going to come a time when the average Joe in England are going to say, well, try it. We're paying £2,000 per head extra for the Scottish individual person. If you don't want it anymore, you go to Europe and see how they treat you. Of course, Europe said initially, and still uphold that, you've got to wait at least 10 years because you're a very poor nation on your own. Where is reality in all this, Leigh? We want to be friends with the Scots. We always have been. They're brilliant people. But the way it's going, these independistas are pushing it and they're creating havoc.
Well, yeah, I really don't understand. You know, we're a small island, heavily populated, but to end up in as 3 small islands, England, Scotland, and Wales, it just does seem a pretty crazy thing to be doing. The disrespect I have for the Fishy Nicola Sturgeon is, because I don't understand her, is really this the time to be forcing the issue with the EU. At the moment, she's threatening to, I think she published certain papers about the deals on the vaccine. What's she doing? Why isn't she trying to save our people, her people, and everybody else's people? Why isn't she fighting with us? Why aren't we coming together? What happens if we go to war? I think Scotland's going to say, you can get lost. As long as the invaders stay over Adrian's wall, we're not bothered. Is that the way it's going to be? Is she creating a dystopian society for us? Or does she believe that Scotland can actually carry on with its own finances, look after itself, and stop getting, was it 286 billion pounds or million? No, 286 billion, I think. I don't know. I'm not very good with figures. I'm dyslexic with figures. But it's a lot of money that they're getting off us to help out with their COVID battle. Well, don't take the money if you want to be independent. I don't want to be married to my next door neighbour, so I don't go around and kiss her or take her money or anything. I don't drive her car. I don't do it. I ignore her. Thank you. That's the way to do it. If you don't want to be involved, don't kiss me. It's a very old phrase about that, if you remember.
Now, still retaining our wonderful Nicola in thoughts, the biggest sin that she's committed this week, of course, is threatening to release secrets to the EU. That is diabolical, Leigh. There's no excuse for that at all. She's gone over the top completely. And I now make a withdrawal, repenting in sackcloth and ashes for a misstatement I've just made. I said 2 out of 10 of the Scottish MPs are in the top 10.
Yeah.
I was wrong.
No.
It's been pointed out to me. It's 4 out of 10. So it's even worse than we thought. Oh, Nicola, you're going to become my favourite person ahead of Mark in Wales.
Wait, what are our MPs worth in reality? Forget about the way that people look at our MPs don't do anything. Our MPs are a waste of time. Are they overpaid really for being in London? To be in a job which does actually take up a lot of time? Is £80,000 a year really an incredible wage for people to live in London? I don't think so. The average wage in Britain now is about £27,000. That's the average across Britain. I'm not sure what it is in London because, like I say, I'm dyslexic with figures, but it has to be in excess of that if you look at it. So is 86,000 when you have to have probably at least 2 properties in Britain? That's one in your constituency or a constituency office, where if you don't have a property, you have to go and stay in a hotel, perhaps. You have the expense of driving or going by train. Train travel isn't cheap. And you have to have somewhere to live in London, which is phenomenally expensive. So is 86,000 a real lot of money for people to do the kind of job they do? Then on to Nicola Sturgeon. Did you notice how I kept the S away from the Nicola then? And it's because, what is she doing? What is she? Why does she want to damage everything around her? What will happen? She's not Braveheart. She's not Russell Crowe. She's not there waving a sword over her head and baring her chest. And she is actually doing things that damage her own country, our country, and now she's having a go at Europe. And then saying, have a look at my secret documents. Oh, by the way, Britain, can you send me that £280 million so I can get jabs in the arms of my Scottish friends when they come out of the pub?
Yeah.
Well, they can't go because it's locked down. I rescind that.
Well, the truth is, Leigh, is it Nicola, Queen of Scots? I mean, is this what she's after, really? No, we'll move on. We've got to move on. Yes. Our last couple of items. Let's go to Sleepy Joe over in America, Joe Biden, and he's taken Winston Churchill bust out of the Oval Office and replaced it with Mr. Chavez, who is one of the high-ups in Mexico. Oh, come on. What is going on, Leigh? This is the new regime coming in with daft things very early.
Well, okay, yeah. I know. Is there any, why would he have to have Churchill in his office?
It was a prezi from the great old country.
He's not gone down. He's not gone down to a car boot and sold it. He's kept it. It's still around. The next president can put it in his office.
Well,
he just doesn't want it.
Obama did the same thing. Apparently, he took it home and put it in the outside toilet. Anything's better than a Buddha.
For him to remove it and for him to put something else in. You see, let's face it, we're talking about the separation of Britain from Scotland, and we're seeing it as a bad thing, really. America is also connected very closely to Mexico and has a lot of problems there. And we've got a bit of a wall built between them now, which doesn't really, they just go around it now. It's dead easy. And so if Biden, in his own wisdom, sees that he should be mending fences, not building walls between America and Mexico, then maybe he sees that as a political move that's worthwhile. Let him do it. It's nothing to do with you. It's nothing to do with me. It's nothing to do with anybody. We've highlighted it. The press has highlighted it. The media's highlighted it. So let's see what he does next. Stumbling Joe, as I jocularly call him, it's got to see how sure-footed he is when he starts to get involved in things properly. He's doing. I would say he's doing very well at the moment.
Well, I personally, I'm praying every day for his survival because I look to the Ms. Harris, and I think Nicholas Sturgeon will be my favourite friend compared with Ms. Harris. Listen, Leigh, we've got to go, but there's a thing we must mention that's happened to the Super Bowl. We think we got problems in Britain with the soccer scene. The Americans somehow get the better of us. They do things better. Their Super Bowl is mega. And you've seen all these empty stadiums in Britain. And some of them have logos on and motifs. And some of them actually have pictures on them. But in America, they've decided, because the income is very low there, they're missing people. You can have your own picture sat in a seat, full height, and it'll only cost you $100. And you know, it's oversubscribed. I believe they've already got 30,000 people daft enough to pay for that to be put. Would you have your picture placed at the end of Oldham Athletics ground?
No, not Oldham. No, it's yeah. No, I think it's good. I think again, it's one of those quirky little things. Somebody thought they'd take a chance, have a go, try to earn themselves some money in this COVID breakdown world. And yeah, good on them for doing it. Yeah, it's funny. If people are daft enough to waste the money in that way, it's a good thing. And remember, it's not really to do with the £100 a seat or $100 a seat. It's more to do with the publicity we got. And this is a good, funny story. I spent a lot of time in Durham, in the Carolinas, and I have no interest in sport. I am as dyslexic in sport as I am in figures. And I went to the Durham Bulls Stadium, I think that's what it's called. And I found it absolutely charming because it was so little and so tight. I couldn't get my shoulders through the door. But it was a famous stadium, and they had a big bull on the top that used to do bull noises all the time. And it was brilliant. That was a publicity stunt. Yeah, if they can do it and they're building up the business and they're getting a bit of doshing, good on them. We're people who pay for it. well, maybe it's just a little bit of fun. There's a lot of money in America as well as a lot of not very much money.
Yes, there is. And we'll have to do a program on America, because the more we get into it from this end, the Portuguese Spanish, the Portuguese Spanish connection end, if I can call it that. It's fascinating. They're not as well off there as the average Joe I'm talking about, as we think. And there are lots of places in Europe that our standard of living and our facilities are way higher. So, you know, when you see all these programs from California and all the films, you think, oh, the land of milk and honey. Well, it may be in California, but it ain't in a lot part of the States. And it's a tough life over there at times. Listen, we finish on a thought for the day. And you can now go to your snow, mate. I will go to my sunshine, and good luck to you. See you next week.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I just want to say very quickly before we go, I've been looking at houses in Marrakesh. Well, there's a place to go. Bye-bye.
He wants to get his bum pinched.
As long as they give it me back.